Spectrovision Radio.
Welcome to God's Ghosts and UFOs, everybody. This is the biggest podcast in the universe where we talk about all the things they said weren't real. My name is Mallory, and I'm here with my friends Jordan and Tom.
Hello.
Hello. And my dogs.
Oh, and the dogs. And
whining and barking.
My favorite is when you say that they're screaming.
There's a lot of screaming.
There is.
Dog screaming.
Yeah. And Coco, since I'm not paying attention to her, is now going to start a monologue of neglect. Come here. Come here.
Today we're going to be talking about simulation theory and a haunted doll. Are you excited, Coco? But Jordan, first you have some business.
I do have some business, and the business is, unsurprisingly, about Substack. Yesterday, I was on the phone with an old friend who also happens to be a giant fan of the show. I won't name him because I don't want to embarrass him, but that's awesome, and thank you. And he helped me realize that possibly not everyone understands how this whole Substack thing works, because it turns out it's easy to assume everyone knows the same stuff you do, but that's not true. So you can subscribe for free to our Substack with your email address so that you get an email whenever we publish an episode. You will automatically get an email. But then the real killer app here is that if you want to reach out to us ever, all you have to do is reply to that email, and we get the reply. So if you listen to our episode and you're like, ooh, I really have a comment about what they talked about, or I have a story I want to share, or a question, you can just go to your email, and the day that we publish, you'll have an email from us, and you can just reply to that email. Now, of course, we'd love it if you went into Substack and logged on and left a comment, which is awesome. But also, we deeply understand the resistance to switching tabs. So you can literally just reply to the email and reach out to us that way. We will absolutely read every email and respond to every email, at least right now, because there aren't many thousands of people emailing us, which is great. So please do that. That's why we want you to get on Substack. And then, of course, there are lots of other options on Substack itself. If you want to do more than just send us an email, you can reply in the comments. You can scroll through old posts. You can click through to the other stuff we link to, etc. If you want to support us with actual money, it's really easy to upgrade to a paid subscription, which is the main way that we're asking for people to support us, in that way. So that's Substack. And I also thought it would be fun to read what a couple of people shared about last week's episode. So this is from the comments last week. A listener named Annalise shared this story. We had asked if anyone had experienced a miracle, and she said that she had had a freak accident when I was 16, caused injuries that, according to the orthopedic specialist and emergency room doctors, should have left me without the use of my right leg. It happened while at a week-long regional church youth conference in Northern Arizona University. I left the hospital in a wheelchair. They took me back to the dorm where a large group of the priesthood brethren, members of bishoprics and stake presidencies who were there for the weekend, were waiting to give me a blessing. I was told to arise and walk, in quotes, as two of the men offered me their hands. I stood and walked, which is pretty cool. I've definitely heard some stories like this before growing up in a similar faith community, but I never get used to it. Those stories are never boring to me. And she also had a great answer to another question we posed in the show notes, which was, what do you hope lab coat wearing science nerds study next now that the stigma is finally sloughing off the world of woo? And she replied, I would argue that all knowledge we currently have is because someone at one point chose to not dismiss something as woo-woo. Besides, who gets to decide what is or is not a false belief or imaginary? I would argue that individuals hold that right for themselves, but not for others.
Amen.
That's a great mic drop.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, the objection to woo-woo, it might be pretty similar to the cringe culture. We're repulsed by the idea of being caught as the dupe.
I think the thing that goes a little farther than that is also this idea that, especially in our culture, some people feel like they have the right to dictate other people's beliefs or gender or sexual orientation or anything else, as if there's some sort of proprietary relationship to other people, which, by the way, there's not, and so everyone is a sovereign being and should be treated as such. At some point when you get old enough, hopefully you're released from the confines of, cool, or, however it is that you might be perceived by other people, and it really doesn't matter because it doesn't matter.
I went to this outdoor concert series in Santa Monica that I'd been hearing about for a while. They do a concert, I think on Fridays. It was supposed to be a real cool social vibe. I get there and everyone looks like cool, hot, sexy, like incredible skin. Everything is perfect. We go and we sit on these blankets and I'm like, when does the music start? And there's a band playing, but no one's listening and the music's so quiet. And it's because it doesn't matter. No one's there for the music. They're there to be cool and to be hot and to meet each other and to get together. But what I was seeing was just a bunch of people getting drunk on their own blankets and not talking to anybody because it's terrifying to show up to a thing and have to be cool. And you know what I did the next day? I went to the Ren Fair.
Yay.
And it could not be more different. Like the kindness and sincerity and openness of people who were willing to be a fan, a real fan, enough to wear like a fur cape in 100-degree weather all day.
Those people they do not care about cringe at all.
It's not about being impenetrable and better than others. It's not about beating out the competition. You just get to be yourself.
Yeah.
You get to be yourself, like unhinged. Your freak flag can fly all the way up.
And like embrace your joy. Live your joy.
Yes, the energy for me could not have been more different. Yeah. I felt 1,000% safer. I made way more friends. Yeah. And I'm not really a Ren Fair. Like, I don't have a ton of medieval stuff, and I felt a little out of place in some ways, and that didn't matter. And so I'm just saying that as a culture, I think we want to embrace woo-woo, and we want to let go of cringe.
Okay.
Agreed.
Thus stipulated.
Last bit of business is that I got to shout out Tom's excellent essay on the Gospel of Thomas, which is our sort of first official essay on the Gods, Ghosts, and UFOs Substack. So I don't know how long I've been craving a good introduction to that text, the Gospel of Thomas, probably at least a decade. And now finally, here comes a guy named Tom. Tom, do you want to tell us why you picked that topic for your first GGU essay, other than to fill my secret desires?
Well, what I like about our show, is that we're sort of multimedia. So we do the podcast, but we're also all writers. And we were always going to write and, shout out to Substack, as a platform for writing, really. So I wanted to introduce like a body of work, right? That books that we all like, or poems, whatever it is that each of us really like admire, that informs our thinking, that we would talk about, as the GGU library. And of course, where am I going to start but the text that I quote constantly, which is Gospel of Thomas. And I wanted to give people, instead of just going like, let me quote this one, saying out of context or whatever, give people an idea of what it is, where it came from, when it was discovered, what it means, And there's lots of reading material that you don't have to pay for, that is not behind a paywall. And so people who are interested in this, that, or the other, or find themselves interested, can go run rabbits and have something to read at bedtime or whatever it is they want. If they like what we're saying or what we're thinking, we're also going to help populate a library for them. And so that's kind of why I kicked it off.
Love it.
I haven't read it yet, and so now I'm really looking forward to it.
What, that essay?
I've been sold.
Enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to it.
You may look forward to this news story that I'm going to do, he said, segueing like a fucking baller champ.
It's a pretty great segue, but Tom, you're not going first.
God damn it.
I'll go first. Thank you, gentlemen.
I may leave that in the episode. That's pretty good.
Sure, why not?
Okay, so this is going to be quick. We're just going to start off with a bit of a speed bump. It's an article from a publication called Futurism with a clickbait title, but I actually liked some things about the story. The title is Alien Hunters Detect Unexplained Pulses Emanating from Two Distant Stars. So we've got pulses, folks. That means two bizarre electromagnetic pulses from a distant constellation within Ursa Major. I keep saying Ursa Major. Like, I was reading this out loud earlier.
Yeah.
Like Ursa Major. I cannot stop. Within Ursa Major, some light years away. And they can't be explained. These pulses can't be explained. So a recent study was published from, again, smart lab coat wearing scientists, our NASA and Caltech Jet Propulsion Lab scientists, They admitted, and I quote, that they could not rule out the chance that the twin star pulses were related to alien life. It's very frustrating when an article is couched this way, like, oh, so you know nothing. So, of course, you can't rule out aliens because you can't rule in
aliens.
anything.
We haven't ruled out anything yet, including aliens.
It could be aliens. I mean, you love almost how hopeful it is, but you just know it's like a journalist who was like, but what about aliens? And they're like, I mean, I guess technically we can't rule it out. And that's all the conversation is.
It's like they got that out of them in cross-examination. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
you can't rule it out, can you, Mr. Lab coat wearing scientist?
Here's what's interesting. So, first of all, Richard Stanton, who's the NASA researcher who really spent a lot of time studying this. So he noticed, this was back in 2023, two identical fast pulses about 4.4 seconds apart. And this star is bigger than our sun. It's larger and slightly larger and brighter than our sun. And this is the way he described it. The star gets brighter, fainter, brighter, and then returns to its ambient level. This variation is much too strong to be caused by random noise or atmospheric turbulence. And then this is the part I like. How do you make a star over 1 million kilometers across partially disappear in a tenth of a second? The source of this variation can't be as far away as the star itself. So, I mean, there was a similar pulse situation back in 2019, apparently, and they thought it was birds at first, but that turned out to not be true. And this guy spent an estimated 1,500 hours just comparing these pulses to everything he possibly could. Planes and lightning and meteors.
God bless
and system
him.
malfunctions.
Yeah.
I know.
No, man.
I wish the article was about this guy. That's
Yeah.
what got me. I was like, hold up. This guy did not stop researching these two pulses. And I just think that's pretty amazing. I'm glad he's on the case.
Yeah,
For real.
That's who you want on the case.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he came up with no answers, you know? He's considered lots of explanations like atmospheric conditions on Earth and anomalous readings due to our planet's gravity.
Do you know if he's been able to rule any of them out?
I think he was able to basically say that nothing like this has been observed in Ursa Major before, and that's where we're at.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
That sounds
And
great.
that it's likely that something is passing in front of the thing that we don't understand, but it
Okay.
could also be generated from the star itself. So
All possibilities still on the table.
just to
1,500 hours later, we have removed none of them, but
can you imagine even 1,000 hours in to go on for 500 more hours? Like,
Raise a glass.
raise a glass.
I stand his
raise a glass,
account.
pour one out.
Yeah. Raise a glass, pour it out 1,500 fucking times.
Of not being able to rule out anything, including aliens. So you're welcome, everybody.
Yeah. I want to talk about an article published on May 19th in Science Alert, and it was written by Melvin Vopson, an associate professor of physics at the University of Portsmouth, and the title of the piece is "The Universe is Suspiciously Like a Computer Simulation." And I'll quote from it. "Suppose the law of gravity is simply a byproduct of the universe operating under a computer-like code," Vopson writes. "That is the premise of my latest research published in the journal AIP Advances. It suggests that gravity is not a mysterious force that attracts objects towards one another, but the product of an informational law of nature that I call the second law of infodynamics, which we'll get into in a bit. First, a history of gravity.
Let's
All right.
go.
Gravity was first described by Sir Isaac Newton's 1687 law of universal gravitation, which states that any particle of matter in the universe attracts any other with a force varying directly as the product of the masses and inversely as the square of the distance between them. And this theory is still accurate in most applications. And then in 1915, gravity was perhaps more accurately described by Albert Einstein in his general theory of relativity. And he said that gravity is the result of the curvature of space-time and the uneven distribution of mass. And really the most important thing here is that now I get to give you one of my favorite Einstein quotes.
Let's go.
Albert Einstein said, "Gravitation cannot be held responsible for people falling in love." How on earth can you explain, in terms of chemistry and physics, so important a biological phenomenon as first love? Put your hand on a stove for a minute and it seems like an hour. Sit with that special girl for an hour and it seems like a minute. That's relativity.
So cringe.
Okay, back to Melvin Vopson. He's been working in the field of information theory. And this is what he wrote: the mathematical study of the quantification, storage, and communication of information. And in 2023, he published another paper, also in AIP Advances, proposing what he calls his second law of infodynamics. I don't think there's a first law of infodynamics. It appears that he called it this as a goof on the second law of thermodynamics. His law...
That seems like an oversight to me, but I'm still with you.
I mean, that's just my understanding. His law of the second law of infodynamics stipulates that information entropy, or its level of disorganization, will have to reduce or stay static within any closed information system. This is in direct conflict with the second law of thermodynamics, which states that physical entropy always increases. That law had its origin in Sadi Carnot's theoretical analysis of the flow of heat in steam engines, like in 1825. Wherever there exists a difference of temperature, Carnot wrote, motive energy can be produced. Vopson postulates that space is made up of tiny cells of information similar to pixels in a photo. Under this view, it will naturally seek to be in a state of minimal informational entropy. The real kicker, Vopson writes, is that if you do the numbers, the entropic informational force created by this tendency toward simplicity is exactly equivalent to Newton's law of gravitation. In connecting information dynamics with gravity, he continues, we are led to the interesting conclusion that the universe could be running on some kind of cosmic software. In an artificial universe, maximum efficiency rules would be expected, symmetries would be expected, compression would be expected, and law, in this case gravity, would be expected to emerge from these computational rules.
Well, I just have a tiny question. I don't know very much about sacred geometry, but it's come up in some of our conversations. And is this very different from that?
I have no idea.
Like, just the idea that everything is just the most beautiful math, like that. Is that what sacred geometry is referring to? You know, that like all the angles and numbers and...
Like the fib sequence?
Well, and like if you measure the distance between a flower blossom and the blah, blah, like I've just heard like that everything is broken down to make it basically like that our universe is run on the most beautiful, perfect math equations, that like everything it can be broken down into some kind of formula. And I guess that's what I'm curious about here, is that if that's sort of the argument of the article, that it's like, wow, this really looks like pretty much just a calculator did this.
I don't know. And I don't even know if this is in pursuit of what everyone else has been in pursuit of, which is the general theory of everything, or the one unifying theory of everything that's going to somehow unite the laws of thermodynamics with quantum state and all that stuff. I have my own thoughts on this. I think that's a beautiful idea. I don't think these things are related, but I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I think that they might be related in a way that proponents of either thing might not expect or appreciate. Who's to say what the real universe is if we're in a simulated universe? This whole conversation is always a little bit silly to me, because we have no frame of reference for anything other than the universe that we live in. So if it's simulated, that suggests that there's a universe outside of our universe that this universe is contained within, which I think is fine, but it's unfalsifiable, right? Like there's no possible way for us to know, because we exist entirely, and our entire awareness and perception and experience exists within the framework of the universe that we were born into. We're part of it. We're literally part of the
NPCs.
fabric of the universe. We are not. No, I think NPC is a derogatory term by people who tout simulation theory as a way to try to bifurcate people between people who are active and living like their best lives and people who are non-playable characters / people who are like sheep or whatever, and then therefore not fully human. So
whoa, that's spooky, Jordan. I didn't know that about that vernacular.
That's
because
what,
of
and
video
when
games.
people say NPCs, that's what they mean. They mean like, like that. It's actually pretty vile. Like I actually think that term is really, and it's funny because it's not specifically bigoted. Like it's not directed at like any ethnic or gender group or whatever. You'll see that term directed at people who just have 9-to-5 jobs. It's more of a vocational judgment than like, oh, you're just part of this sort of system. Like you're not thinking for yourself. You're an NPC, right? It's also a funny term because if someone is a non-playable character, that makes somebody else just a playable character, which means you are just
You're being played. You're being played by the simulator.
It's hilarious. Anyway, the point is, the conversation about whether or not we live in a simulation has always been on its face a little bit absurd. Just because we live in the universe that we live in, unless you start to get a little woo and you start to think about consciousness as something that transcends the entire conversation or the entire perception or the entire sort of like physical reality that we have been born into and become aware of through science. So if you believe that there is a way to transcend the universe that we currently live in and to get to a higher ordered universe, then it starts to become relevant. I personally believe that is a relevant conversation. What's interesting to me is that most of the people who debate whether or not we live in a simulation tend to be materialists who don't believe that our consciousness transcends the material world.
Right.
So I'm like, what are you talking about and why? Maybe a more interesting angle to me, or maybe a more relevant angle to me about this. What's this guy's name again? I'm sorry, I forget already.
Oh, excuse me. I'll have to.
Melvis. Oh, it's the best name in the world.
It is.
It's my favorite part of the podcast.
Yeah, you had a
so
reaction.
far.
Melvin.
I love a good name.
Melvin Vopson.
Vopson.
Oh,
Vop.
Yeah,
with a
Vopson
P.
is a
Melvin
good name.
Vopson.
Yeah.
Is he single? Oh my gosh.
Melvin Vopson. So
Mel's writing Mallory Vopson in big bubble cursive in her
character.
journal.
yeah.
I love it.
But so I wonder, maybe instead of suggesting that the second law of infodynamics dictates that maybe we're in a simulation, rather it's, does entropy work differently in the universe that we live in than we thought it did? And does it work according to sets of information theory? Information theory is very fascinating. It's also a little bit weird because it also relies on perception. Like, what do we mean when we say information? Do we say, because it often means things that we think of as data, right? Information, and maybe I'm missing a big part of information theory. I'm sure that I'm misunderstanding a big segment of it. But it seems to me to be a pretty anthropomorphic way of talking about the universe, because information is something that we traffic in as a value or not value, right? That human beings do. Like, if you were to ask grass what information was, it might have a different answer than what a human being did. So what is information? And if you were to declare that the universe is entropic and is a sort of like, coming apart energetically, that's just from our perspective.
My take is that this is a case of like reverse engineering where, edgelord physicist is like, I want to live in a simulation. And this is the only guy doing this. Every time there's do we live in a simulation? Melvin Vopson has published a paper or written an article going like, do we live in a simulation? It's going back to 2023. I'm like, how is this news? Oh, he's doing it again. And now he's saying it's gravity, proof of computational processes. And I'm like, Isaac Newton escaped the plague, went and lived in the country, was reading under a tree, apparently, and was struck on the head by an apple and was inspired to, come up with some really beautiful shit in the 1600s.
Possibly also he did mushrooms. We should put on the table.
Maybe he did.
Never heard that before.
The doors
Love
of
that.
perception. So then in 1825, this guy Carnot is like, and this is the birth of the second law of thermodynamics. where he's doing a theoretical analysis of the flow of heat in steam engines. So that is the level of technology in 1825.
Yeah, I was
and he's
say.
going like steam engines. And what can we deduce from motive power based on temperature? And then Einstein has a theory of relativity where space and time are not separate entities. There is space-time, and then that has some sort of, effect. He also made some shit up because his own theory suggested some scary stuff. And I forget what his special pleading was that he inserted into his equations that he said was the biggest mistake he ever made, but he did do that. And now you have this Vopson fellow who is like information theory, coming up with the thing that allows him to conclude or suggest that we live in a computer simulation, which suggests software and computers. So you already have the universe, the great yawning mystery of the universe, and then some dude going like, behind the curtain is what? A computer bigger than the universe? Is software literally software that you can identify, that you can separate from universe, that were some projection, but then behind that is a bunch of gear run by whom, invented by whom, maintained by whom. Seems like, for what reason?
Right.
Why can't we just have a universe? Right.
I don't remember.
We just have a fucking universe instead of.
Why can't we just have a place that we live in?
Yeah.
Because the universe is a steam engine, and now it's a computer.
That's where we're at, right?
Yeah, that's really
we're
right.
Exactly. Exactly.
I was playing
we
Skyrim.
define the universe in the terms of that we understand, based on the things that we're familiar with.
Our greatest,
which is what we always do.
Advancement.
It's why we started with fire, wind, water, and earth.
Mal, I still want to do maybe this would be a bonus episode, but I don't know if it was in an episode that we published or if it was just in a prior conversation where I said, is Mormon cosmology just a type of simulation theory? And I still think it sort of is. Here's the thing. I'm not opposed to the idea of quote unquote simulation theory. If you are suggesting simulation theory is real, then you are suggesting that there is a universe a higher ordered version of the universe than the one that we are familiar with our senses and with our modern science. I'm very open to that idea, to the point that I'm fairly convinced of it. But the proponents of simulation theory seem not to be as considerate of what that means for us, if that makes sense.
Seems so strange. I don't understand. That feels like the only question. It's like, okay, I'm in a computer. Who made the computer? It's like it feels like the question, like, what's this for?
Right.
What do I do afterward? How do I win?
It's the same kind of conversation that people have.
Do I, like an Ender's Game?
Would
or
it help if I was playing Skyrim and I got this brilliant idea?
I'm not saying that people who think that we might live in a simulation don't have those questions. What I'm saying is that the way that those questions are framed is fundamentally strange to me, because it seems to be self-blind to the crossover in the Venn diagram between that and spiritualism. Like, it's the same thing as like saying, no, God didn't make life on Earth, aliens did. It's like, you just said the same thing. You're just using a different word. You're saying someone else came in and put life on the Earth. Like, that's your theory. And so, you wouldn't call someone who is open to the idea that somehow life got here from an extraterrestrial means, does not consider themselves to be religious or to take a sort of creator standpoint. But they are saying virtually the same thing that someone says if someone says that God did it, right? Because you're still punting the question of how life got started. And you're still suggesting that some other entity that is not human came in and made us. And everything else is details, right? And so there's plenty of details. Not that the details don't matter. And I think this is just coming from a place of personal frustration at having certain words or certain ideas having been so castigated by common culture and brushed aside by the dominant materialist worldviews that it's stunted the conversation in so many quarters. Whereas lots of people may have really intelligent things to say and offer from lots of different perspectives, a huge percentage of those perspectives have been shut out as being spiritual, religious, therefore not worth considering or having real dialogue with. And so that's why that's where this is coming from for me.
Go off.
I mean, how is this different from the mechanical universe model from the late Middle Ages, where it's basically God is a watchmaker, and everything operates according to these strict laws, and it's predictable.
It's the exact same theory.
And you've got Melvin Vopson going like, but if you run the numbers, so he thinks that if you run the numbers, if you can divine the right equation, that you can solve the problem, when in fact, I don't think there is a problem. But anyway,
what's the problem?
What
Yeah,
is the
that's
problem?
the question.
the problem
The
is
idea
that it's not
like, well,
controllable
now-
or predictable, which is in fact
I
not a
guess-
problem. It is our great gift.
I want to talk to somebody with psi abilities about it. That's what I want. We were talking about people with damage to their frontal lobes last week or the week before, and how they might look at the simulation would be more interesting to me than just another, like you said. What are we hoping? That eventually our technology will match up to the technology of the cosmos? That's what we're hoping. That finally we made the computer and now we understand.
But it's
how the universe works.
proprietary, so you have to subscribe to it.
Jordan, have you seen Prometheus?
I love Prometheus, yeah.
Have you seen it, Tom?
I have.
That great scene where she's wearing a cross and they're on this journey to go and discover the alien race that created
Right,
our planet
yeah.
and all
They're
of
looking
life.
for God.
Who are
Yeah.
assholes.
But somebody on the mission with her looks at her cross and is like, "How can you wear that?" Her response basically is like, "Well, we know they made us, but who made them?"
All right, well, let's talk about a haunted doll.
Fuck yeah.
I need to preface this by saying that this is exactly the kind of story I don't want to cover on this podcast.
You mean the truth?
Talked, we've talked before.
You're afraid of the truth?
We've talked before about charged objects. I think the demonic possession of a doll probably fits inside a similar category. I'm talking, of course, about Annabelle, a haunted doll that has inspired at least 2 very successful Hollywood movies and, according to the New England Society of Psychic Research, is currently in their possession. The famous doll arrived in New Orleans, French Quarter last week for a brief tour organized by Ghost City Tours. Tickets sold out almost immediately. Paranormal investigators, I've got strong air quotes here, paranormal investigator Ryan Daniel Buell documented Annabelle's arrival on TikTok saying, "The energy is definitely different here. Not gonna lie, I was saying the Lord's Prayer the entire time." Okay, Dan. Despite the creepy porcelain doll portrayed in the movies, the real Annabelle is actually a standard Raggedy Ann type toy.
Which are terrifying.
Which are
fucking-
objectively terrifying, yes. The story goes that the doll originally belonged to a nursing student who began experiencing strange things like the doll moving on its own and leaving written messages. First, a medium who was called in told the young woman that the doll was inhabited by the spirit of a young girl named Annabelle Higgins, who had died near the building she lived in. But when the strange events became violent, like a motorcyclist dying shortly after insulting the doll, paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren stepped in. They concluded that the doll was actually possessed by an, quote, inhuman demonic spirit seeking a human host. Naturally, they got a Catholic priest to perform an exorcism and then, just to be safe, secured the doll in their personal occult museum. After several other incidents, the Warrens put Annabelle in a special glass case marked "Positively Do Not Open," where she remained until the museum closed in 2019 after Lorraine Warren's death. The whole collection, though, is now under the stewardship of their son-in-law, who's been facilitating tours around the country for some of the items, including Annabelle. So that brings us to the arrival of this cursed doll in New Orleans, where, of course, people on social media are drawing connections to the escape of 10 inmates from Orleans Parish Jail and the burning of Louisiana's largest remaining plantation 80 miles away. Okay, so here's my take and why I hate stories like these. Annabelle's New Orleans tour represents the sophisticated monetization of our natural craving for the supernatural and how social media leverages coincidence into content basically for free. What we're witnessing is the transformation of mystery into carefully packaged, market-tested experiences that generate their own viral momentum. The people putting on this show have mastered this process using perfectly hashtagged videos on TikTok, limited ticket sales, and elaborate security theater to summon dollars from dread. And then the whole thing becomes self-perpetuating when real-world events like the plantation fire and jail escape happen sort of nearby. And then there's this feedback loop where the performance of belief generates actual belief, which then finds all sorts of evidence to validate the commercial product. I mean, what's not to hate here?
I feel like, well,
Don't you dare come up with something not to hate.
I agree with you. And I did a little once over of this article and I was like, oh, okay, so they're selling they're mentioning their sold out tours. I'm like, what is this article written for? haunted doll, and are they trying to sell some tickets to some tours, perhaps? So that it is frustrating, and I do think that there is a certain amount of, I don't know, I guess we're exploiting kind of a beautiful thing about people, and also maybe not even beautiful because it's real and human, but like the vulnerability of being like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm really scared, and I'm not sure what to do, and why are these bad things happening? And I would love to either be able to blame God or evil for something.
Yeah.
Which I think that's the main thing that I wonder with things like Annabelle. I'm like, what is evil? Is it real? Do we believe in it? Like, what is it? And what's it driven by? Because it's not that I think that there aren't really bad and spooky things that could be operating on a level that is not what we really understand with science on this planet at the moment, but I don't understand it, and that's all I've got.
I do believe that there are non-human entities that are dicks that want to like cause strife and suffering and damage if possible, outside of any sort of cosmology. I do believe in egregores, where people will charge objects with belief and intent, either that they are holy relics or that they're, demon possessed dolls. I cannot get past the idea that they convinced a Catholic priest to exorcise a doll, because does that mean you can exorcise a table or a mirror? Because I don't know. I mean, that's a legit question. I don't know. So I don't.
I believe you can exercise anything with a face.
Okay. That again, it's just this crazy materialist idea that like the great mystery has to be somehow embodied or housed in something.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not drawing a comparison beyond in a negative way, but even, the first, temple of Jerusalem being literally the house of God where the Spirit dwells, like quite physically dwells in that house, in the temple. And Annabelle is where this demon who evidently got, the wrong directions to a human body is dwelling and then like just causing shit. And then people are pattern seekers. And so if anything, quote unquote, bad happens in the vicinity of this thing that can be capitalized on in order to like shift ticket sales, we're just going to go like, oh, it's Annabelle and not, I don't know. Like old buildings burn down a lot. Like a lot.
As it turns out.
They really do.
And people who are in prison prefer usually not to be in prison.
Yeah.
So sometimes they leave.
Yeah. So, there's not much there. And I'm not going to say anything to the contrary of what is there not to hate about this.
Part of it is, as I was reading about this story or this collection of stories or this thing, this emergence on social media, I just couldn't stop hearing Tom's voice in my head saying this stuff is not a ticketed ride. And this is what this is being turned into. It's like, this is a ticketed ride.
Yeah.
Literally
Haunted
a ticketed
ghost
ride.
tours.
Yeah.
Haunted ghost tour. Like, sign up to go see the evil doll. And I feel like a similar sort of repulsion response that I do when I go to like Salem, Massachusetts, where like the witch trials have been 100% monetized. Everything there is just like, it's become a theme park basically.
Yeah.
When or literally every Halloween when everyone's just popcorning all like every single spooky thing they can imagine. I don't think there's any harm in having fun with like scary movies and just enjoying just like the vibes of spookiness. That's fine. But when it comes to like this sort of bullcrap where you like are pretending it's like real for the sake of the entertainment value. Anyway,
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued because I definitely feel like I fall into the camp of somebody who enjoys. I enjoy the spook, and like I've loved scary stories since I was a kid. My uncle used to tell these epic scary stories around the fire, and like they were so good. And I don't know what's real and what's fake. And I like there are parts of his stories that I'm like, did that really happen? Was like a guy with no hand? I can't remember if that was real or not. And I love that. I love that I have this like weird mystery legend about my uncle in my brain. So, I mean, help me understand.
If I had to drill all the way down,
what's the
real trigger
danger,
for me is probably the TikTok post where he's like, not going to lie, I was saying the Lord's Prayer the whole time. And I'm like, okay, like.
It's because it's not real. Like, it's not honest. Like, he's not actually.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. I think that to me felt like the most sort of cynically exploitative thing, right? If you actually are frightened of this thing to the point that you actually believe that you need to be reciting the Lord's Prayer repeatedly to protect yourself from this object, maybe you shouldn't be transporting it to a ghost tour that you're selling tickets to. So this is where the cynicism reaches a sort of threshold where I'm like, this is repulsive to me.
Can I just add something, though, without gainsaying any of that? I love a good antique store. And this has happened more times maybe than I can count, where I have been happily wandering in the bowels of a large antique store and come across something, a little alcove or an old fur coat or something, where the vibe is fucking rancid. It's really deeply unpleasant. And it's this feeling of, get the fuck away now. And which I honor immediately. I'm like, don't want to be here. I do believe that objects can absorb energies and reflect them back.
I also believe that.
So I've been there.
I also believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to be in the same room with this fucking hideous ass Raggedy Ann doll? No, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't, especially since people have invested so much energy into it, you know?
Yeah, same. No, I mean, I wouldn't argue with any of that.
Yeah.
So there you go.
No, I appreciate those. I appreciate the further discussion because it's an interesting area. It's not like there's something potentially repulsive about commodifying human fear.
Oh, good Lord.
That it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, like fear feels like something that we should be connecting over, not that we should be, I don't know, lying about and selling. And like, I don't know. I'm still figuring out my opinion on it, but I'm interested in it.
All right. Well, shall we wrap up?
Yes.
Tom?
Please give if you can generously. Do come now that you understand how a Substack works, which was a help for me because I did not see Jordan's earlier explanation. But yeah, come on over because there are people there talking and commenting, and there's going to be supplemental articles that we're all going to write, and it's just going to be a good time. If you're a YouTube person like me, you can watch it there, and we hope you do. And we hope you, whatever, thumbs up and comment, you know, algorithmic necessities, blah, blah, blah. And we're so delighted that we've been getting some positive reviews. And I wanted to read part of one. I think this was on iTunes. This person, Amicable Ammonite, which I really like. This is what they wrote. So happy I found this podcast. If you are a fan of Astonishing Legends, Cosmosis, or the Haunted Objects podcast, which is August Company, I'll just say, you will likely enjoy this. I would describe it as thoughtful banter on all things anomalous.
Ooh,
so thank you very much.
Quote.
Yeah, that's so good.
Thoughtful banter on all things anomalous. I want that on a t-shirt. Put
so
that on our banner, babe.
You know, now that people are starting to write in and go like, you know, a rise and walk and those kinds of stories, you know, we're going to devote part of each episode to reading and talking about those because we've been asking for them for a long time. What we were talking about before we started recording the show is that it's very difficult to find news stories about the ghosts part of things. It's because it's usually such a personal experience. A lot of people don't talk about it. It doesn't really make the news. We're so interested in hearing and sharing experiences about that. And I think we can ourselves, and we encourage you to do that too and leave a comment to that extent, wherever it is, because we will read it.
Yes.
We love each other and we love you. See you next week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye.